Welcome to the Magna AI podcast, where we sit down with principals, district leaders, and instructional innovators who are reshaping what's possible in the classroom with a little help from AI. Together, we explore how school leaders are using smart tools and bold ideas to support teachers, personalize learning, and improve outcomes for every student. Hello, listeners. Welcome to another exciting podcast of Magna AI podcast. Today we have with us Dr. Lantz and Aaron Ruff. Dr. Lantz currently serves as the Director of Curriculum and Instruction for Ottumwa Community School District in Iowa. Dr. Lantz has been in this position, and she's responsible for the district's instructional direction, aligning curriculum with state standards and guiding professional learning for staff. We also have Aaron Ruff, who's the principal at the high school in the district. And we're really excited to talk to them and learn more about the district and their leadership approach. Thank you, Dr. Lantz and Aaron. Do you want to share a little bit about what got you here and what brought you to the current school district?
Sure. So I'm newer to the Ottumwa Community School District, although this is my fourth year. And I would say the thing that brought me into this school district was our work around Be the Best. And so I previously came from the Des Moines Public School District, which is the largest school district in Iowa, serves a very diverse population of students. Ottumwa is very similar in how diverse it is, but the direction and the high expectations of all students and staff under the Be the Best vision of our newly retired superintendent was really what drove me to want to come to the school district and be a part of that.
And I've been in the district 9 years. I've actually served as principal at every level. And the one thing that I love about Ottumwa is the diversity and just the group of family members, community members that make up Ottumwa just makes it a great place to work. And the kids make it a great place to work in the buildings as well.
Great. And it's wonderful that both of you are here because we can learn from the instruction side of things and actually the implementation and also the students and exactly teacher side of things. So I'm really looking forward to it. Uh, so leading a district-wide shift to standards-based and mastery-oriented assessments, I've seen like your district was going in that direction. So can you talk a little bit about what have been like the key turning points in Autumn's assessment journey?
Yeah. So coming in when I started, we also brought in the high reliability schools framework from Marzano Resources. And there's 5 levels of that work. Standards, reference reporting, and then competency based education are those top levels of that. And we knew, obviously, we know that's best practice, right? Clear learning outcomes for kids, measured targets that they can track their progress around. And so we knew that was a direction that we wanted to go. And so we built out a 5-year strategic plan around that work during my first year, while at the same time, Gateway High School, where Mr. Ruff is the principal, was doing competency based education. So their students follow kind of different pathways than our traditional high school students. And we just finished our 4th year of that work. So it took identifying essential standards at each grade level and content area. We built scales around each of those standards. So students truly knew what it meant to master the standard or be ahead of that and exceed those expectations around the standard. And we were stair stepping it up kindergarten through 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade. Um, and we're going to keep that kind of year long step up approach. In the same time, we did a grade level reconfiguration. So we have an 8-9 building and a 10-12 building. And we have so much interconnection between kids who are, they might be taking a high school course in 8th grade. And so if we kept that stair step approach, we're going to be missing, like, kids' educational experiences would be kind of disjointed. And so we made the decision last year, instead of going year by year, that for school year 26-27, we will be standards referenced 8th grade through 12th grade. So changed that 5-year strategic plan a little bit. But a lot of the work will mimic what's happening at Gateway already.
So essentially, this I'm assuming would require you to take a lot of like feedback from the teachers as well. So how do you engage teachers in developing like proficiency level skills?
So at Gateway, like Dr. Lantz said, we jumped into competency based right away 3 years ago, and it's been quite the journey. But the teachers have been really critical in the whole piece of building the scales, using all the resources that we have from our Zanos to make sure that the scales were at the level that we need them to be for rigor for our kids. So competency based education really comes down to not seat time isn't important, right? It is not about seat time, it's about the learning. So if a student proves that they have mastered some sort of competency, they get to move on, and we don't have to have like what traditional school would look like. So we can move kids through instruction faster if they can show mastery. And the teachers have been very integral in being part of building those scales, making sure those scales are at the rigor of the standard or the competency. And this work wouldn't have happened without the teachers, and they have been very important to making sure that Gateway is moving forward with our competency based.
So now, like we make these changes, and essentially the goal is to help with the learning and improve student outcomes. So how do you actually measure that there is an improvement in student outcomes, and are you seeing some evidence that the standards-based assessment approach is actually helping?
Yeah, so we've been standards-based K-5 for a couple of years now, and our students are very, very good about tracking their progress against those standards, even starting in preschool, actually. Like, obviously, tracking progress around a standard looks very different for a 3-year-old than it does a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old. But we've been so intentional around that work and celebrating kids' successes along the way. And we're really proud. So, for instance, our literacy data in K-5 this year, we grew 15% from fall to spring as a district in kindergarten through 5th grade. And so much of that we would attribute to clear learning targets that students know and understand. And they can tell you exactly where they are on their pathway to mastering those learning targets and those outcomes. It's like turning on a light for kids, right? So it's, a lot of times teachers know what they want kids to know, but kids don't know what those outcomes are supposed to be or how they get there. And I always compare like the standards reference or standards based pathways as we've made that very clear and essentially lit up a room. And so we're not kind of feeling around in the dark anymore.
So how has the standards-based grading changed the feedback that the students receive, or has it?
It absolutely has.
Oh, yeah, it has. It's much more specific. Kids understand, first off, they understand what their learning target is. And then when they have a task or complete a task, they get really good feedback from that scale of um, where they are. But my favorite thing about it is kids give themselves feedback, and they can say, "Hey, I'm at a 2. I'm not quite at a 3, and these are the things I have to do to get to a 3." So those are my favorite conversations when I go into classrooms now to do a teacher evaluation. I'm really not even watching the teacher anymore. I'm watching kids and having them interact with those scales and be able to tell me where they are and tell me what they need to do to get to proficiency or mastery.
I'd say it's also changed how we've assessed students. And so uh, our teachers are far more intentional about ensuring that assessments match the standards that we want kids to master. And that's taken a lot of work from our teachers, but it's really good work. And it ultimately makes everyone's lives a little bit easier because you think about the days when we were in school, we might have a giant final exam over something at the end of a class in high school. But now it's students have mastered 5 of the 6 standards in my class. What do they have to do just for that one standard? It's not about a giant comprehensive assessment that may or may not actually hit the grade level standards. It's about where kids are at in any moment in time and reaching them there. And so I look at it as well-being work for educators too. The lift at first is really heavy, but ultimately, like, learning is then in the hands of students. There's a lot of ownership there, and we are facilitators of that learning, and not doing the heavy lifting.
Very interesting. And I think what you said also, I'm assuming, has some interplay between the formative and summative assessments. So, can you talk a little bit about that?
So we've actually taken out the terms formative and summative in our
Okay.
work. We did have that for a long time. We had grading policies that were like 70% summative assessment, 30% formative assessment, but in a standards-based system, we're bringing in evidence of learning. And that evidence of learning could be a quiz or a test, but it needs to cover the standards and the depth of the standards. Like, gone are the days of 50 question multiple choice tests that are really just at a retrieval level. You see a lot more of our assessments across a whole unit that are open ended, bigger questions for kids, bringing in vocabulary and other content knowledge. And so it's really just kind of changed how we look at assessments as opposed to formative summative. Really, it's what evidence of learning are we gathering for kids around these standards at this time.
And through our work at Gateway, I think my favorite thing to go in and see is a student gets to show us how they have learned. So they get to choose how they are assessed. So they, some kids are really good at projects, some good. And so that's how they have chosen to show that they have mastered it. So, um, yeah, it has changed a lot since I was in school. I don't have any kids filling out bubble sheets anymore. We have kids that are getting to choose how they show us they know and can show us what they know and how to do things.
So, what potential do you see for AI in enhancing this proficiency skill feedback? I heard, like you mentioned, there's a lot of open-ended answers as well. So, would love to hear about your thoughts there.
So AI has been really supportive of like the teacher's work in their scale creation. So a lot of times, especially if there's a standard that teachers are really struggling with, we'll pop that into an AI platform and help it like generate what a scale could look like in that work. And another fun part of that is then we ask prompts like, where might students have misconceptions? And it allows us to be more proactive. So AI has been a really helpful tool in our creation of the scales.
Just this morning, I was working with the the high school and the middle school, and we were doing a crosswalk of our competencies and standards, and we just threw it into AI platform, and it showed us exactly where we were alike and where we were different, and took a lot of the work away from us, and it made it a lot more intentional. So
Mm.
that helped us this morning immensely.
I'll say on the student end, it's been really interesting as AI has become more and more of an available tool for everybody that at the secondary level especially, our teachers are moving away from technology-based assessments, even technology like, we just did a science curriculum adoption, and our teachers wanted textbooks again. So, there's a lot of really great things that we've gotten from AI, but in order to really show mastery of the learning, we have to know that kids learned it, not that they got it from some other source, and so our teachers have moved away from kids in front of screens as much as they, I would say, even 3 years ago were on.
So now let's move to building sustainable teacher support systems that reduce burnout and enable innovation. How has your approach to teacher support evolved over your careers?
This has changed in my 9 years here. This has been the biggest change of how we support teachers and their wellness. And Dr. Lantz is a big part of that. So she can share with all the things we've done for staff wellness and to alleviate burnout.
Yeah. And we have it's really fun to look at some of our rates of retention, especially for our initially licensed teachers or new teachers to the district, because we have really high retention rates of staff. Um, but when I started in Ottumwa, we really started taking a hard look at well-being of staff and students. That's always been a passion area for me throughout my whole career. Done a lot of work around that around our state. And one of the first things that we implemented our first year was teacher professional development days. So as we have a schedule of district days where I come up with the content for teams, or building days where principals come up with the content for teams, but teacher days where teachers just get time, like time to work or maybe take care of themselves, go to a doctor's appointment, really for whatever they need. And that has gone over incredibly well. Our teachers love those days. And we've also built out like wellness work around kind of the different parts of well-being for our staff. So it gets incorporated into our teacher quality days, where it's like we have teacher-led sessions. So we have staff leading sessions around like walking at the levee or how to manage your Gmail inbox. There's so many different things, and that's been a huge hit from our teachers too.
Yep. And at the building level for Gateway, so Gateway is an alternative high school that's helps students that don't really do well in a traditional setting. So we have really focused on trauma-informed instruction and compassion fatigue. So we, at the alternative level, the rate of burnout is higher than traditional schools, just because the issues that kids bring in, and as adults that care about those kids, we take those on as well. So we have really focused on compassion fatigue and making sure that our teachers are their best selves, because we need them to be their best selves to help our kids.
And it's really interesting. Gateway actually has one of our highest retentions of all staff and across the district. Um, I kind of our next level of that is really trying to build, like, we know about physical wellness and, your sense of safety and connection, like all of those are factors of well-being. But I think what goes underrated but has a huge impact is that sense of belief in myself and that I can move kids and move the needle, and when I do, it feels really good. So I think about every time there's, like, a screener window and teachers' data is coming in and they're so excited because kids grew or this kid wasn't proficient and now they are, or, like, your graduation rates at Gateway when a kid, finishes their programming and how just happy teachers are at that time. And I think in the standards reference grading world, we get more of those moments because our kids are mastering skills in those standards all of the time. And what I really want to start pulling out is that when we make impact in kids' lives, that's also well-being work and connecting those two things better.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was going to be my next question. Like, what metrics do you use to monitor teacher well-being? And I think you touched upon them. Any others come to mind?
Yeah, we have a staff survey every year that we put out in spring and fall, and just asking questions, which is important to the staff, and letting them know that feedback that they're giving us, we are going to take into account and make changes and involve them in those changes. There's not a lot of teachers coming into the profession anymore, so we really got to take care of the ones we have. Yeah. And I think that is very important work, and I think Ottumwa has shown that is very important to us.
How do you balance traditional professional development approaches with like more innovative supports?
Yeah, we intermix. We kind of do a hybrid of academic learning and that kind of wellness and well-being work because they really are interconnected, right? Like they don't stand apart. You're going to be a better teacher and educator if you take care of yourself, your physical well-being, your emotional being, etc. You're also going to be a better educator and feel better about yourself if you know and understand and feel like an expert in your content and your instructional pedagogy. And so we tried really hard to intermix that work together in our system and really work to build professional learning experiences that meet all of those needs of our teachers.
And when Dr. Lantz talked about the schedule of our PDs and how we have district and building days, it just gives and teacher days, it just gives us really autonomy of how at the building level of how we see our building with the needs, and we can adjust that way. So next year, my district or my building days are going to be based on project-based learning, and we're also going to revisit some of those trauma-informed care and making sure that our teachers are taken care of and taking care of themselves.
Got it. Uh, and I think you talked about like the teacher days where they get time to kind of focus on things and look at things and see how they can be improved. I was going to ask like what conditions help create an environment for teacher innovation. So that looks like an example. Anything else do you see that can actually help with the like getting teacher feedback and then seeing how they can help innovate?
I think with Gateway, we're really learning and using project-based learning, and that has really given teachers free rein on how they want their kids to show mastery. It's also we see an increase in attendance in those classes that are using project-based learning because it's engaging instruction and kids want that. So a lot of free reign with that project-based learning piece, and just as all I do is tell my teachers, hey, if you can show me where the competency spits and how these students have mastered these competencies through whatever you're doing, That's all that matters, right? It's we're going to teach to those standards, and we're going to get those students to mastery of those standards. So, um, they have been very innovative. We have a lot of different student-led projects going on in a lot of different classes. So I would say that's a gateway. That's where teachers have been allowed and are really taking it that innovative path.
Mhm. Yeah, and we offer through our teacher quality work, teachers to connect and like kind of write proposals for professional development that best serves them. And we try every time to make sure that those teachers get exactly what they need. If teachers are asking for it, we're big believers in making sure that there's no barriers. We have extraordinarily high expectations of our staff and our students, but also we want to make sure that they are fully supported to meet those expectations.
So actually, that's a wonderful point to dive into our next topic of social and emotional learning. And as we have progressed, right, like there are a lot of stressors, and it looks like we definitely need to provide social and emotional learning support to students. So how does Ottumwa conceptualize the relationship between SEL and academic outcomes?
And it's like we both could talk about this one, I think, for forever. So we're interconnected systems of people, right? So um it's a lot harder to learn if our needs aren't taken care of, if we're dysregulated, we're not self-aware of how we feel. You can fill in whatever social emotional learning competency you want there, but it's a lot harder to do your best learning when those things aren't taken care of. And so we embed social emotional learning into basically everything that we do. We have a curriculum around the work throughout our district, but we know that social emotional learning is just as important for our adults and doing that work alongside of our adults as opposed to just like a canned curriculum for kids. And so um, that's part of why we have the wellness and the well-being work that we do because our adults being self-aware and able to self-manage and socially aware and having relationship skills and making responsible decisions is integral for student success in their classroom. And so we want to make sure our adults' social emotional well-being is just as strong as our students. It's like you have those mental what you have those like days where kids put
Yeah,
on.
so we have student-led wellness days where they get to choose activities. We have a bunch of different things for social emotional, but at Gateway we are allowed to be a little bit different since we are an alternative school, and we have some waivers from the state to exclude some of the Chapter 12 requirements for like electives and things like that. So we are social emotional first. We are people first and wellness first, and then academic second. And students that are dysregulated can't learn. And so we make sure that every student is feeling safe and secure and a sense of belonging right away, and then we can get to the academics. And I think one thing that has shown that success is we started that work 3 years ago, where our graduation rate was 66%. Last year we were at 90%, so it's working. Kids are coming to school, they feel like they belong, and most of our kids are first time graduates in their family, right? So we know we don't only have that in the classroom, we extend that to the families. A lot of our families didn't have a great educational experience when they were growing up, so they don't want to be involved in school. They don't want to have their students involved in school, or they do want their students involved in school, but they think it's the same way it was when they were in school. So we extend those wellness opportunities to parents, and I think we've seen a lot of improvement. We have a ways to go. We're not there yet. I don't know if we'll ever get there, but through the work of people first, relationships first, we've seen great improvement.
Oh, that's 66 to 90%. That's a huge improvement. So congratulations on that.
Well, it wasn't me, it was the kids. I'm just there to help the journey.
How do you support staff working in intensive environments?
Yeah, I think everything we just talked about is really important. But I want to go back to the surveys that Aaron mentioned a little while ago. We conduct culture and climate and well-being surveys of our staff twice a year, our families every year, and our students twice a year as well. And that data we use that to help shape our work in the district. One of the things we started incorporating this year that has just gone over really well too is listening sessions with staff. We actually started it with our associates, so our paraprofessionals who are the retention rate is, the turnover is a lot greater than our certified staff. And so our human resources team or myself, groups of us would go in and just ask questions and sit one-on-one with people and get their feedback, and then we'd go through that feedback with building principals. Like, here's what staff in your building are saying, here's what they need, and it allowed principals to have really quick wins. Like, "Oh, if we move the schedule from here to here, like, this is gonna be, beneficial to our teams." Like, and so that's been ongoing, and our I don't have the percentages, but our associate retention has gone way up too, and their attendance has gotten a lot better because we also had a lot of attendance issues with that, our non-certified staff. And so we wanted to extend that even bigger, those listening sessions to more staff in the next school year.
So you talked a bit earlier about the interconnection between the social emotional learning and the other academic curriculum and so on. Can you talk a little bit more about how our SCL competency is integrated into academic feedback?
Yeah, we actually have scales around the SEL competencies as well. So our counselors have built out scales around those SEL competencies, and they work with kids. And then it'll be K-5 next year, but 6th grade through 12th grade, they have citizenship and employability skills that they get feedback around those citizenship and employability skills alongside of their academic feedback. And so they are obviously everything is integrated in our work, but um, it's just as important for parents and families and kids to know, is my child a good teammate? Are they respectful to their teachers? But that stands alone and is reported out separately from their academic standards. But both things matter, you know.
So we are seeing AI play a bigger role in terms of like giving feedback to students or even helping teachers with like lesson planning and other things. What role do you see AI playing in socioeconomic learning, emotional learning, and school culture?
Rock, paper, scissors.
Um, for us at Gateway, we're always looking to use new things, new tools. Um, I have think we have scratched the surface of how AI could help us, um, in those things. But just running things through AI platforms, we create something, we will run it through and say, hey, where are the gaps, or those types of things. So I'm not much of an AI guy yet. I am still learning, but
Mm.
I think AI, we have not even seen what it's going to help us and how it's going to transform social emotional learning or just education as a whole.
Yeah. Some of our platforms, so for instance, that panorama survey, have add-on extension pieces that like they can take that student's data, their well-being, and craft like specific plans for kids based off of those what students have said that they feel areas of support that they might need or strengths that they have. And so we know, again, we haven't gone into that yet, but we know that there's a lot of possibilities around it.
Now let's talk a little bit about like how do you evaluate like new technologies or instructional processes? So can you talk a little bit about like any recent evaluations of instructional technologies that you might have done, and what's the process that you follow?
Yeah, I'd say it's very similar for any curricular resource that we choose to adopt and bring into our system. It has to be evidence and research based. That's kind of first and foremost, is we don't consider anything that doesn't have a depth of evidence of impact and research around this being best practice. So that's always what we look at first. And then also usability for staff. Is this something that, staff can pick up and go with? Is there a lot of professional development that needs to occur with this? I'm just trying to think of some of the platforms we've pulled in technology-wise recently. I actually feel like we're stepping away from technological platforms so much and going back to, like, literally books, which as an instruction person, I want kids in text, so I love that stuff, but we have no matter whatever their resources, technology, curriculum, etcetera, has to be grounded in evidence and research.
So I'm also principal of the virtual program, and we had just gone through vetting what our virtual platform will look like, and so we just, like Dr. Lantz said, it's got to be evidence based. It's got to be one thing that's very important is just user friendly. So there's a lot of virtual platforms out there, and we had some questions that we had to ask and vetted them, and had some free trials and had some kids run through the free trials and some adults run through the free trials. So I think when it comes to technology, if it's going to be easy to use and evidence based, I think it's going to have a heads up on anything. The ease of use is really important to us because, especially at the virtual program, because we're 612, so sixth graders got to be able to handle the technology as well as the senior.
Makes sense. And so I heard like you mentioned a couple of times moving more to textbooks, and I totally get like there is that human experience that actually is helpful there, and it's just like writing something on the paper. It's like a totally different thing than like sitting in front of the screen. I would love to hear because like generally what we have seen is that teachers are so overburdened with like so many students that they have to support and then give feedback and so on. And then now AI is coming in as like, okay, because of this transformative technology, you can really personalize the feedback that you give to students and so on. So how do you balance these two different approaches where like you have pressure for time but you still want to make sure that you are using traditional approaches which actually have worked in the past but also consider some of these new technologies?
So this has been an area that I'd say, really grown in as a district. After COVID, there was a lot of supplementary resources purchased for teachers, different software platforms, et cetera. Again, though, when you looked at the evidence behind those platforms, like what we noticed. So, for instance, one of the sites that we had for teachers, we talk about making their life a little bit easier is Turnitin, which you can run students' work through and see if there is any AI or grammatical things. What we noticed though with, like, for instance, that platform was that our highest F givers were also our highest Turnitin users. And after working with those teachers, learned that they were using technology to make their lives a little bit easier, but they didn't actually know their student work maybe as well, because they weren't in the work. They were using a tool for their work. And also, they weren't necessarily working with kids on how to use AI as a tool and not to write your essay for you, like, and so that coaching of kids through these resources weren't there. And so that's why we've pulled back quite a bit because I mean, there's no replacement for a good teacher and quality feedback and that instructor knowing each student personally. And so we do want to find tools that make our teachers' lives easier. That's without a doubt. But also, we have to be very careful of walking that line of technology taking over our jobs.
Yeah, I think, well, Gateway, we have those scales, and some of my teachers will run things through AI like, "Hey, here's a piece of student work, and here's the scale. Show me where they are, where their gaps are." And but then it's more important for me for that teacher to have that conversation with the kid and know where that kid is, so they can see where they're on the scale and what they have to do to move to mastery. So AI can help in that piece of giving feedback, but how the feedback is delivered is important, that it's a conversation with the teacher for me, and the student has an interaction.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think making sure that the teachers can actually are involved in the process rather than it seeming like they're kind of disconnected from it. I think it makes a big difference. Uh, so now, can you talk a little bit about as AI starts to be used more and more? What do you think are some of the precautions that should be taken to ensure equity in AI use?
I think about what I just talked about. So, how do we empower people with AI platforms to be more resourceful without taking over and doing the work for you? Like everybody, I don't know someone who doesn't use AI anymore, and but it's really easy to tell. I think when people use AI, whether it's the formatting or you have a follow-up conversation and they don't actually know what they're talking about in terms of the content. And so really, I think the next direction personally is how do we empower people to use these tools well and not just do the work for us?
I also think it's important that we are consistent district-wide about language we use around AI and how we expose students to AI. I think every student needs to have that same experience, because then everyone's having the same experience of how we're going to use it, how the district feels about AI, and how we're going to use that in our everyday life for academics.
Great. Thanks for providing these wonderful insights. Now, I want to move to our last leg, which is essentially the lightning round. So I'll ask a few questions and then you can share your thoughts. So I know like you have been in your role for some time, and as you have progressed through different roles, can you talk about like what is one word about how you felt during your first week of your current role?
Fulfilled.
Overwhelmed?
What is one piece of advice that you think you could have really used for your current role?
Go slow to go fast.
You're better than you think you are.
Standardized tests, are they necessary evil, useful tool, or overdue for a rethink?
She's not going to like my answer on this one.
All of the above.
I think we need to really refocus on how we assess kids, give kids feedback. And I think with our move to competency-based or standards reference, I think I would love to phase out standardized testing. I think kids should be able to choose how they show mastery.
I don't disagree with anything there. I will say the one thing about a standardized assessment that I appreciate is consistency. So everybody across the state, for instance, is getting the same assessment, and that helps to measure progress. But that's the one thing.
I think too many important decisions are made on the results of standardized tests. And I'm not sure a standardized test shows me what a student knows and is able to do.
I agree with everything he's saying as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. Both the perspectives. So AI in classrooms, in one word, it's a threat, a tool, or a co-teacher, or assistant.
One word, it is a tool,
A tool.
a potential to be a tool. How's
Yeah.
that?
Tool, yeah.
In progress.
Any recent book recommendations?
I just started Atomic Habits and it's very good. And The Power of Moments is my best read of this year so far.
In terms of educational work, Elena Aguilar's Coaching Teams is probably my favorite.
If every student in your district had to learn one non-academic skill before graduating, what would you say would be?
How to work in a team.
Self-awareness.
Well, thank you. So that brings us to the close of this wonderful episode. It was great to hear about your perspective and all the wonderful things that you're doing. Thank you for sharing your time, Dr. Lantz and Mr. Ruff.
Our pleasure.
Have a story, question, or insight from your own classroom or campus? We would love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in to the Magna AI podcast. Be sure to follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube and learn more at magnaeducation.ai. Because when we support teachers with the right tools, we unlock what's possible for every learner.